Hey everybody, this is Isaiah and welcome back to Magic System Monday. Today we're going to be talking about RWBY again. Now in the last video I made about the fight scenes in RWBY, a lot of people suggested to me that the fights were originally very good early on, but eventually became bad on account of Monty Ohm's disappearance. Well, I'm not exactly sure if I agree with that right now. I'm not the type to leave stones unturned. So let's take a look for ourselves and see if this is really true.
Did you hand out parachutes for us?
No. You will be using your own landing strategy.
Now this is a classic example of a missed opportunity in RWBY. At face value, this is something that the writers are just doing to be cool or to add an opportunity for the characters to have their own flavor in terms of how they operate. And overall, we have no reason to believe that it means anything in the long run. But even small scenes like this could have easily been repurposed to add a lot of depth to the world building. Throughout the career of a hunter, it's not entirely unreasonable to say that eventually they would either be falling from the sky for some reason, or would have to be deployed through an airplane or an airship of some sort. So in situations like that, you could argue that implementing your own landing strategy would just be a way of being self-sufficient, relying only upon your skills and your own tools that you create or bring with you, as opposed to being reliant on external factors. And if this is something that would end up being semi-common in any given huntsman's career, then it stands to reason this would also be part of the curriculum. So it wouldn't be a hard stretch to make this make sense. But unfortunately, for some reason, the writers didn't even bother. Makes you wonder. Now, for all of those that are listening, whether you're fans of RWBY or not, or whether you agree or disagree with what I'm saying, please keep in mind the fact that if you want to be successful as a writer, it's important to master these little moments, that they all matter and they can all work towards the benefit of your world building and your characters and the depth of the story overall. Now, if you pay attention here, you can see that Yang is using these shotguns, or whatever they are, that are built into her gauntlets to send herself flying. This is pretty interesting because these weapons are obviously pretty powerful if they can send her flying as far as they do. Keep that in mind because that will be important for later. Alright everybody, it's time for an actual fight. Now if you're like me and you haven't watched the RWBY character trailers, this is probably going to be your first opportunity to see a character like Yang fight. So this is a very important opportunity for the writers to show the viewers what this character is capable of. Why exactly is it that this character is dodging in the same direction as the attack is coming from? Now don't get me wrong, in certain circumstances this can work just fine, but that's kind of situational, and in this specific circumstance there's no reason that she had to do that. She could have moved in literally any direction. She could have been left, right, forward, backwards. She even could have used her incredible acrobatic skills to jump on top of this thing and then use her shotgun to put a hole in the back of its head while also increasing her distance from the enemy. But you can't always expect people to do the most optimal thing. Instead, let's just look at the level of expertise and skill that the character has and ask ourselves, is this something that the character would have had sense to do? And at the very least, because she is at least a somewhat seasoned warrior, I don't think she'd be dumb enough to jump in the same direction of the attack. This is a maneuver you would expect to see out of a new Dark Souls player. This is the part where people are going to start accusing me of nitpicking, but I'd like to remind you that all big things are made of small things. Every entire fight scene is made of small scenes that segment together.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
And here we have an excellent and decisive blow. Yang uses her incredible strength to punch this monster in the stomach and lets off her shotgun at the same time for increased force, and she sends it flying. This is really nice. Now at first I was willing to put some respect on this character's name, but the very next scene kind of balances out the score for me. Pay close attention to the combo that Yang uses on this second bear. Now she goes in for an uppercut, which there's nothing inherently unreasonable about, and there's also nothing unreasonable about the fact that she sets off her shotgun at the same time. However, if you pay attention, despite setting off the shotgun going upwards, sending this monster airborne, it doesn't convey anywhere near the amount of force that it did on the previous monster or herself in the earlier scenes. We saw before that that thing was strong enough to send her and an entire bear grim flying. But for some reason, hitting this one in the face doesn't send it flying or veering off in another direction. It just sends it a couple of feet into the air. Not only that, but despite the fact that the shotgun is strong enough to send her flying in the opposite direction, it seems to send her up into the air as well, unless you'd like to argue that she jumped, which is strange to me, because the force of this shotgun could easily have counteracted the force of her jumping. And we know that because we've seen how powerful it is already. I'm not so much worried about whether everything follows the laws of physics to a T. I don't mind them being stretched, but they've already established a logic for how these momentums work in-world. And this scene defies it on 2 levels with both the character and the enemy she's fighting. And to make matters worse, if you pay attention, she sets off a second shot in the opposite direction of the bear and tries to use the momentum of that to fuel one of her kicks, and that kick sends the monster flying. I need this to be consistent. I'm also going to ignore the fact that it would have been easier to just punch the Grimm with the shotgun gauntlet again. But to make matters worse, after this monster is sent flying, we see that neither of them has any visible damage. After Yang flies into a fit of rage, she triggers her inner link and goes into a flurry rush, just pummeling this monster with a bunch of attacks with her fists, combined with her shotgun blasts, right? And then she sends it flying, and I think it's finally dead now. And honestly, I would have no issue with the idea that it takes that much effort for one of these monsters to go down, if not for the fact that exactly after this, we get introduced to another character who takes out the second Grimm with one attack. Not a really powerful blow, she takes it out with a blade attached to a string. And if you know anything about chained or strung weapons, they have a lot of difficulty transferring the force from your body to the actual weapon that lands the blow. I have no problem with a weapon like this existing in series because it's probably a utility choice, and I take no issue with that. But my problem is this blade on a string is capable of one-shotting a Bear Grimm in the back, but Yang has to go into flurry rush like she just activated her perfect dodge in Breath of the Wild, and it takes all of that plus the shotgun attacks to take out one of them? I feel like this scene was made to make Yang look cool and strong, but in reality, it makes her look really weak. You're using all of these attacks and all of these weapon blasts to destroy one enemy, and then an ally who's going to be on the same team as you takes it out in one attack. The only conclusion that you could come out with from this scene is that Yang can't box. But I'll tell you guys the good news. The very next fight from this is one of my favorite scenes that I've ever seen in the history of RWBY. But we'll have to cover that next time. In the meantime, this is Isaiah from Magic System Monday, and I'll see you guys later.